I've been in the ClickFunnels world and have a contract with Russell Brunson with his high-level masterminds called the Inner Circle.
On this episode of the Matthew Byrd Podcast.
When the intention behind your why is something more than money and fame,
right,
completely drives it, whether it's uncomfortable or not.
Speaker, CliftonStrengths trainer,
hiring and teams
the
expert,
founder of the Millionaire Strengths Method,
mindset and well-being.
coach for Russell Brunson's Inner Circle, Sheli G.
It's this internal drive that you can't even explain. That next gold ring, that next challenge. I love to work with those people. The people that are like building the future that everybody else is going to be walking into. Whether it's health, whether it's technology, entrepreneurialism.
As much as I love online stuff, being together in person, it's so much more powerful.
I study a lot of what we call neurodivergency. I'm like, okay, is everybody on Adderall? Like, maybe we're not all screwed up. These really are a lot of superpowers. And just like every superpower that we all have, there's a shadow side to every one of them. And knowing your edge is important. He goes, and then I went on this journey of who am I? He said, before that workshop, I had had suicidal ideation every day.
Hey guys, before we listen to the full episode, we wanted to ask, if you're liking this content, would you please subscribe to the channel and like the video? It really helps me and our team grow this podcast and bring in more awesome guests to the channel. Thank you, and back to the episode. All right, Sheli, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me in the studio.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
And you know what? I think I'm just going to say it out the gate. This is the first time we've ever talked.
Yeah, well, in real life.
In real life,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've met online, and I've seen
wait,
you around
that
for a
sounds
while.
Weird. We met on LinkedIn.
We met on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah.
LinkedIn's online.
Not like a dating site or something.
Of course not.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. So we connected on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Local here in the Boise area.
Mm-hmm.
And I love interviewing interesting people, telling their stories, and really digging into the things that they do and their expertise. And you're a coach, you're a speaker, you do quite a few interesting things, and I'm looking forward to kind of hearing and unpacking some of your story.
Yeah, I've been told I do too many things because people are like, well, we don't know how to introduce you. So that's when I started to decide, the last probably 24 months, I'm like, how do I not confuse the marketplace as much about,
Yeah.
Because I do have some kind of primary priority things, but over the years, just between economic weird twists and turns and then clients asking you to do will you teach a class on this? And I'm like, well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taken me in a few different directions, which I love, but from a marketing standpoint, I've been trying to focus in a little more.
Yeah. It's I'm sure that some of that's happened organically for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we go back, because I love actually hearing some of the career path and even the story of how you got where you are. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, what would you tell people right now? What is your core focus? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, my core focus has been to finish editing my next book, which people are like, well, when's your goal? I said, February. They're like, awesome. I said, no, this last February was my goal to finish editing my book. I'm on the home gate with that. And it's really a lot of my life's work. It's around, to your point, the amazingness in people. What is it that makes you tick, that drives you? What do you want to accomplish? What are your top supernatural kind of strengths that help get you there? The neuroscience behind that. And also, how do we leverage community in a healthy way moving forward so that we really do incredible things and don't burn out like a lot of people are, and we don't break down in the process, and we have longevity as well. So, that's a lot of what I'm speaking on, teaching on, coaching on. But yeah, I have a few different coaching contracts, work with some different organizations, and my niche, right now is really around high performance, high achievers, people that want to be amazing. And by the way, not just at work or with money, with family, with health, with their impact to the world. High achievers tend to want to achieve in every area of life. And that's both a challenge and the blessing. And so trying to really navigate that in the world today.
That's very cool. Yeah. It's very true that the whole, high impact, high achievers, it is not just business. Mm-mm. That is really some of the same lessons you can take across any area of life. Yeah,
the same principles that make you successful, in business. And some people have been successful and then things get weird and, things that were working aren't working anymore, but they always reinvent and they're resilient and they come back up and they innovate again. And I like to think of it like there's a few different kinds of people. There's people that kind of avoid thinking about the future. They're a little bit more in that probably a trauma response, a little bit fight or flight survival mode. And we've all been there, but some people kind of almost perpetually just stay there for different reasons. Some people plan on the future, some they think about it some, and they do a good job engaging experts, like financial planner, whatever it is they might need to help them think about that. And then there's the people building the future. And so I love to work with those people, the people that are like building the future that everybody else is going to be walking into. Whether it's health, whether it's technology, entrepreneurialism, or hopefully the next wave of organizational leadership and development. But with that, yes, they are crazy ideator, innovator types that move really hard, really fast. But they want it all, which is so cliche, but like they really do. They don't. Sometimes they struggle in balancing all of that, but that's the goal. I think the word I love right now the most is optimization. How to optimize in every area of life, and sometimes certain areas are going pretty good, but then we become very aware because we care. Like, wait, this area, I have either been avoiding this or this is just, it needs some recalibration. It's not where it needs to be. And I'm not going to stop until I have all of these areas working towards me and towards the impact I want to leave,
That's awesome.
behind.
I want to dig into a lot more of that, but first I want to go back into now some of your story a little bit, because I love digging into the topics of like what you do, but I also love sharing the stories of unique people of like, how did you get, what was the path that took you to what you're doing now? So take us back a little bit on some of your story.
Yeah. Like I came to Idaho by way of NNU. So I originally came here from Spokane, Washington, and it was actually NNC back then. And I was English education, speech communications major. I thought I was going to be a school teacher. And about 2 years in, I went, I think they would fire me. I don't think I'm traditional enough, or, I have a little bit of that outlier mentality. And so I think in my heart, my spirit, I knew I wanted to teach, mentor, coach, however you want to say that. But I just realized it wasn't going to be in this traditional kind of platform. Not that it's wrong for anybody to do that. I just realized that wasn't going to be my path. So I did what a lot of great college students do. I dropped out thinking I would go back at some point when I figured it out. And I never went back. I got into corporate America in lending. I hated math, but I somehow got a job in lending and opened up my own mortgage brokerage, expanded, had 3 locations in Idaho. And I loved it until I didn't. I started to really realize through deep dive personal development I found myself in. That was a huge game-changing moment. A friend of mine that I realize now how much of a mentor she was to me. She was 10 years older. She was a financial planner, very self-made. And she was like, you're going to go do this 3-month-long, super deep dive personal development thing. And I'm like, okay. Like, the world I came from, I didn't know what that was. And this is back when it was not mainstream to do stuff like that. You were a cuckoo. You joined a cult, you'd be on the documentaries today, right? And so I went and did the thing. And I mean, it changed my lens by which I view myself and everyone and everything for forever.
Wow.
And so that really started to push me towards that more, personal development. And really now it's a holistic lens of not just business career, which I love. I love business. I love all of that. But the whole person goes to work and the whole person goes home. So that holistic lens of human, it really started to push me that way. So at some point, about 5 years in with mortgages, I was done. Like I was done. I had to close it up and get out, which was painful and weird. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And, but I knew, I just knew that wasn't going to be my long-term thing. And I find even when it's very hard to close chapters sometimes. Yeah. I don't know if you've had that happen.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I think it depends on if you, if you're the type of person that gets passionate about something and that there's something else you're meant to do or you don't love what you're doing. For me, when I did close a chapter, I was excited to close it. And I had people ask like, that's your baby company. Like it was the thing you started the first time. You're sure? And I'm like, no questions asked. Why? Because I know that this other thing that I have planned, it's way more aligned with like, I know that I'm going to impact more people with it. Yeah. Therefore, like I already am over the old thing.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on. So I think it depends.
It does. Like I got really clear to get out without totally understanding what was next.
That's true. That's
so I think that made it hard, but I still knew I was supposed to get out. But like closing, laying people off, closing. I mean, it's wonky.
Yeah, that's
one
hard.
of them was a family member. It was. In fact, I even had to get out of town and clear my head before I came back and did it because it just had to really go somewhere where I could hyper focus on. Meditate, pray, whatever, and just be alone and be like, what am I doing? Am I really clear? Mm-hmm. It was, an epic choice. But literally, I had bills to pay, and I'm like, until I can build whatever it is I'm building in the personal development kind of consultancy space, I didn't know exactly what that looked like. And I knew I had to build it. Yeah. It wasn't going to be an overnight thing. So I, did what a lot of good lenders do when they quit. I was a car guy for a year, sold cars with about 35 men.
There you go.
At a Ford store. And I just thought, what's the hardest sales job that there is where I can make good money and I can learn how to crack the code of the hardest sales job, which maybe door to door is harder. But car business is pretty tough. Like there's a lot of people that walk on that lot and they hate you and they've never met you before.
Yeah, as soon as you walk out the door.
Like that was very different than mortgages, right?
Yeah.
It was so different. And working with 35 men and and not knowing anything about cars or trucks, which I still don't. But, I was in the top 5 sales guys every month and it just was fun to do something really different and get out of the world I was in because a lot of what I knew and who I knew was in that world. And that may be one of the hard things about culture shock, right? When you get out of the thing, it's not just leaving the thing behind. It's who you're not going to cross paths with these people all the time anymore. Your life's really going to change and a lot of the who and everything in it. And I think there's a bit of a grieving process in there.
Totally. Yeah, you're leaving what was comfortable. Anything that you build or a career path, you put all this time into becoming who you are in that world, the people the language the environment. To completely change that is like starting over. And there's, I don't know if it's an actual statistic or not, but I've heard people fear change more than they fear death. It's so... most people would never, and that's where I think a lot of people get stuck doing things they don't enjoy too, is many, many, many people would never take the step to leave something that is comfortable, that they know, because they fear that so much. Even
if what they're doing, I was at a point it was no longer comfortable. Because I was I call it being agitated up and out of where you are. And I feel like God will do that when he's like, okay, you're not going to go if it's just super fun, money is just coming. He will continue to, challenge you and your brain and your spirit even if everything around you going well, you might just be going, I just know you're restless. Yeah. Your spirit is restless. And, either you need to reconcile something where you're good again in the thing that you're doing, or that could be a message, body, mind, spirit, however you look at it, that it's time for me to agitate up and out.
Yeah.
And so what I find though, and I found this in my own life, but I definitely find it with coaching people that sometimes the pain or the discomfort of what is still a less scary thing than the pain and discomfort of what you don't know is coming. Because there's going to be pain and discomfort. Every industry has pros and cons. Every relationship has pros and cons. And so at least I know how to kind of deal with this or navigate this, but I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball to know what I know this discomfort. And I'm comfortable with the discomfort of this.
Yeah.
I don't know what if that's
the
worse.
Unknown.
Yeah, that's hard for people because our little control freak goes, even if you feel out of control where you are, it's still but I'm probably more in control than what I will be. And that's a stuckness that can really get to you.
Mm-hmm. I think that ultimately, I don't think everybody gets that call or that push to step into the unknown. I think that is maybe one of the traits or pushes of people who actually are supposed to go create something.
Right.
Many people, they don't have that inclination of it's the opposite. They're like, why in the world would I leave? I have a job. I have a thing to do. That's all I care about doing.
Yeah.
I think it takes that next level of kind of push or pull or fire that's no, there's something else. Yeah. Even when you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's unique.
And, to your point, I'm a big fan of don't tell everybody to be an entrepreneur. Don't tell everybody, to do radical things overnight without really being intentional about it. Because, if we look at a strength standpoint, so when I say strengths, I'm talking about the CliftonStrengths from Gallup I've been certified with them for 17 years to teach that, but I actually teach it really, really different than them. If they heard how I teach it, they'd probably be like, what is she doing with our stuff? But anyway, love the tool. Teach it really different.
Yep.
But in a strengths context, the ideators, people that have ideation, futuristic, activator, achiever, they're going to be very different than somebody with discipline, consistency, analytical, and there's a 1 in 33 million chance you're going to have the same strengths in the same order as somebody else. That's how deep and wide this assessment is. It's not like you're superficial, like you're a dog, you're a red. It's not like that. But it really is an indicator. Like, as I've been in the ClickFunnels world and have a contract with Russell Brunson with his high-level masterminds called the Inner Circle. I've done these assessments, like I said, for years. But as I've been doing them with them, I've been like, okay, wait a minute. I'm seeing some similar strengths every single time I see an assessment of these members. And they're outlier leaders. They have to qualify. They have to do $1 million a year more. And they pay a lot of dollars to be in this mastermind. So they're a specific kind of group of innovators. They're all different industries and they're from all over the world, but they all use digital marketing, right, to really leverage and scale. So as I'm looking, the two that I see over and over and over and over again are learner, number one, and futuristic. And it makes so much sense. Keep learning, keep adapting, keep growing, keep evolving. Some people try to only learn as much as they absolutely have to live. And then there's people who are like, they almost have to shut off their learner to go do the things, right? And switch directions. And then they're futurists. Again, they're the ones building the future, whether it's the apps, the way we message things, the way videos are done, however, the way we think about real estate. I mean, it's really changed and it's changing more rapidly than ever before. And these are the ones doing it. So I was like, oh, okay, not everybody. And sometimes I'm coaching them like that. Don't expect everybody on your team to have that achiever or competition at the level you do. That's why you're kind of the 1%.
Yeah.
Or if you want to hire to that, we got to look at these strengths before you hire people.
Yeah.
To find more of that, those superpowers in there. So you're not just trying people on, or they're not just trying you on. And then you're like, that's not working.
Yep. Yeah. That was a lesson to learn for the first time building a company, was like, why is nobody else working this hard or showing up to do this or thinking this way? And it wasn't until I started following and listening and learning from other leaders that they're like, that's not how it works. Like 90% of the people you employ are never going to work as hard as you. It's not their thing. It's not their vision. It's not their, and early on when you're building, you don't, unless you learn something like this, you don't really even know how to properly evaluate people.
No.
You're like, what skill set do you have? Do you want to work here?
And they know how to interview, and we've been trained how to interview, and you got an hour maybe, and you usually are interviewing when you have a hole to fill, which makes you a bit vulnerable.
Yeah. And
then we bond, we kind of imprint with each other, and we have a good connection. Like, a lot of it's how we feel. We think they are great for the role, but a lot of it's how we feel. And you may like this, they may be a good human, but like, do they have the strengths to not only do the role, but do it at the pace and with the vibe and all of those kind of things that are also important with every, culture and company.
Yep. Which is where then, and it's funny hearing other people that are way ahead of me say it, but then experiencing the same exact thing, where it's like, I've completely flopped over the last 10 years of like, I used to really care about what was on the resume and what experience they had in the past. Now I'm the opposite, where I'm like, I'd hire never even looking at a resume. It's more about the person and the fit and the characteristics they bring in than exactly what they've done in the past. And you learn that along the way by accident if you don't have someone teaching you how to do it.
Yeah. Well, by accident and by spending a lot of money and usually some brain damage. And it's not good for the for teams either. Yeah. It's not good for the owner, but they're also looking for a great job, great role, great fit, and they don't always know exactly how to vet that out either. And so I'm really passionate about that one, like helping people interview, hire correct, spend that $59 in the front end. Are you crazy? If you don't, you might be spending tens of thousands of dollars fixing problems or, not getting that ROI that you want and need because we just didn't want to spend a little more time and $59 at the front end.
Yeah.
I know it's hard because the kind of entrepreneurs I work with, they move fast and hard, or the kind of execs I work with. So it's counterproductive, but it's also like just help me be futuristic in this way for you. I have the crystal ball of knowing otherwise you're going to spend so much time and money fixing a problem instead of just doing it right. So it is going a little bit slower at the front end to go fast with the right people once you're in the race.
Yeah,
right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things that you do when you're coaching and working with people?
I mean, my friends, and I'll tell you this too, even my friends are like, well, you have to know your strengths. Otherwise, she can't even have a conversation with you. You know, like she really struggles. Like it doesn't matter what your blood type is. You need to know what your strengths are.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my tool. It just helps me have a more objective lens that's not about male, female, or age or the resume. It's like, oh, these are their strengths in this moment because they do change over the years. A lot of people don't understand that. They've been told wrong about these assessments. But with this particular assessment that's accurate, it will change. It's not introvert, extrovert. It's your approach and all these different things. And so if I know that, I much better know how to coach somebody like Russell Brunson, for example. He's competition number 1. That's a very different human than people that have competition 34 and they're just kumbaya and they're like, like he's got this weird mix of like impact, but he's like, let's go. I want to be number 1. I want to be the, and it's beyond money. It's like, it's this internal drive that you can't even explain. And people are like, why aren't you ever satisfied? It's like, well, because that's part of what drives them is that next gold ring, that next challenge, and always learning and all of that. So that's very different than if I'm coaching a super feeler who, loves to just hold space for people and listen and just never be on a stage. And neither are right or wrong. They're just so different that if I approach, people are like, well, do you have this thing that you do when you onboard a coaching client? No, because like everybody comes in a different place. They're different humans. They want different things. They're struggling with different things, sometimes similar, but like they still come in very unique, places. And so it's just for me to really understand where are you at? What do you want? What do you not want? It's really important. And like, how do you go about getting there? And then what tools do I have in my tool belt to help conspire, to help you, make that happen? So I love group coaching more than anything. And then one-on-one, I love to do after group coaching because I can kind of see all of you. If I see how you interact and how you're playing in a group, and we can kind of cover some stuff there, and then I can help laser focus in on something for you. And now you're even usually more aware, oh, like I noticed this came up for me, but I didn't want to ask it in the group, but like now can we talk about it? So that's some of my favorite work that I do, which
that's
is
awesome.
I like keynotes, but keynotes are really great opportunities for me to go in and work with groups and teams and executives more intimately. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What do you have any stories or examples that come to mind where you helped a leader really find a pain point or some way to turn something around that they were unaware of?
Yeah. I mean, the first guy that comes to mind, he had cracked the code professionally. Like he was, very successful with many businesses, and he was always starting a new one, successful at that, and, had a lot of money. And I met him through actually a philanthropic thing he was doing, a nonprofit organization that I had a contract with. And he had never taken his strengths before. And this was a global company, and they, pulled people in to volunteer from all over the United States. So they had a bunch of them had come as leaders to Eagle, Idaho, and I was doing a strengths finders. CliftonStrengths is what the test is called now. And when he saw his results, this was such a great guy. Like everybody liked him. His name is Martin. I have permission to use his name. Just always giving and serving, and just love mentoring and funny. And like when he saw his results, apparently he was seeing them like for the first time when I saw his face. And I just noticed he looked really upset. I mean, I've seen a lot of reactions, but this was probably one of the bigger reactions I can ever remember seeing. And when I said, hey, Martin, you doing okay? He's like, these aren't strengths, these are weaknesses. And he was really upset, getting more upset. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe we can take a break now. And, everybody use the restroom, do what you do. And I'm like, Martin, what's going on? And he's like, if I would have leaned into these strengths growing up, it would have been not okay, at a level. So it wasn't okay to be relational and have empathy and developer and all these squishy, we think of them as soft skills, which what does soft skills mean in the United States? That's not usually a compliment, quite frankly. It's usually not. How strategic are you? What kind of an achiever are you? This is what we've been taught and trained. And so I think that's a reason why those two strengths show up the most commonly in the top 5 strengths, because we've been taught and told.
Yeah.
And we do need to go do the things and all of that. But again, there are a lot of different ways to do it. So he's melting down because a lot of his strengths in the higher rung were relational. And they weren't really what he'd been doing in business. And so even though he'd been very successful, guess where he got his joy from? Serving and mentoring. And, for him, it was discipling, and it was like young boys particularly. And it was like what gave him joy made so much more sense. But at first it was like, he was very, because it had been ingrained into him, indoctrinated into him, like, this is wrong, this is bad, you man up, you go achieve. So he did. And the sad thing is some people can never do what he did. I mean, he did, but that wasn't where he found joy.
Yeah.
So after he went through his 9 stages of grief and whatever, and he really had an identity crisis and kind of a breakdown. But I always say, like, the breakdown comes and then either a breakup or a breakthrough. It's up to you. Do you do the work? Do you lean into it? Do you go, what's going on with me and why? And what does it mean? And go on that journey. And he took the journey, to his credit. And he came back, I don't know how long later, I just remember opening my Facebook and there was this huge message in there. And that's not always good news, right? You're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And he was like, gosh, do you remember that day 10 years ago?
Wow.
And I'm thinking, do I ever? Because it was one of the biggest reactions I'd ever seen, And he was like, that day, I was so upset and so mad. And I walked away just really having a hard time. And he goes, and then I went on this journey of who am I? Like the identity that I've been told I was supposed to have and all of that. It really broke down, and I had to figure out who am I really and what am I here to do, and like really embrace that and decide if I was going to love myself or not. And he goes, before that workshop, I had suicidal ideation every day for as long as I could remember. And he said, after I left and started really realizing this is me. This is what I've been avoiding and evading and pushing down and trying to be somebody else. And when I really embrace, like, this is who I was designed to be, and it's great, and it's exactly how I should be, I've never had a suicidal ideation again since that point. And how powerful is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's an assessment. Not everybody has this reaction, obviously, but like this was a great telling to me of how transformative it can be to really honor who are you, what do you love, what do you not love, because that's your body, mind, spirit sending you messages about what to do the most of. And, we all have to do some stuff we don't like, but trying to make that lesser. Yeah. Don't just do the job forever that you've been told you should. And don't avoid the thing you're feeling nudged or called to again and again and again just because you're worried people will judge you or they won't understand. Sometimes that calling or that mission or that goal has been downloaded into you, and you may be the only one that will ever get it, or at least for a while. How could everybody else get it? If that program's been downloaded into you, why do we expect people to get it? Yeah. So sometimes you just got to go all in on who you are or what it is that you know that you know that you know. It's your time to do, and then let the chips fall as they may. That was powerful.
That is a very good story. Man, a quote that comes to mind for me, someone that told me once is, you can't outsource your intuition.
You can't.
It is, even when you're trying to make decisions about paths you want to take and you get advice from other people, it still comes down to like, what do you feel is right for you and the things that you believe and you want to do and the things you see? Because nobody can make those decisions for you. And nobody has all, I said this with certain changes I made in path of like, I could take all the advice from other people, but they don't understand the mix of the reasoning and the things I've seen and the conversations I've had. And like, there's so many things that play into the decisions you as an individual make.
Yes.
It has to come down to like your belief and your steps. But what a powerful moment for you though, to see some of the work that you're doing and how it could impact someone.
Right. It was very cool. And for every story like that, a lot of times people don't come back 10 years later. I hadn't seen him in a long time and tell you, but he was like, I need you to know, like this made a big difference. And it was just another one of those confirmations for me. It's like, you're on the right path. Yep. Keep doing it. And, that was one. Another one I could think of was more on a hiring thing. This was also a nonprofit that ended up calling me. But, every organization, there's principles that either make it work or not work. And a lot of those principles tend to be the same. No matter what your product or service or cause is, it's like there's things that need to work for it to work, right? And be sustainable and all of that. And so this organization was having like a crazy, I want to say it was like a 67% attrition rate. It was very high. They were hiring, between 18 to 25-year-olds. They were young, they were single. But there were more reasons why after onboarding within 6 months, there was such a heavy attrition ratio of these young adults pulling out and quitting. And so I got involved, and, long story short, a lot of what I did was a lot more kind of personal development with them on the front end, and was able to get involved in the interviewing process and not only ask interview questions myself and represent truths to them so they didn't feel bait and switched and some of the things that were happening, but was able to model to other people how to do that. Quit telling everybody all of the most wonderful things. Quit selling this job and this role, which is what a lot of managers and owners do.
Yep.
Which is why they should get out of the way until they put a rubber stamp on the final.
Yep.
Y'all shouldn't even see candidates until they've been pre-screened. Do they even fit this role?
Yeah.
Because you should never be talking to them otherwise.
Yep.
But like the control freak and a lot of people are like, well, I got to talk to them. They're going to join my company.
Yep.
And so, really turning that around, we lowered it to about 13% inside of like 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
And it was huge, but it was just screening better and having better conversations and not just representing the yin, but the yang. And in fact, one time the CEO was like, you're kind of like the Simon Cowell of job interviews. Like you're likable, but I'll ask hard questions and I'll tell them, there's going to be days you're going to want to quit and throw it in sound, blah, blah, blah. And that's normal. But like, what do you do when that's happening? And everybody would look at me like, oh my gosh, is she going to scare all these people away? It's like, no, they're getting scared after they've onboarded and been trained and all of these resources have been allocated.
Yeah.
Now they're turning away because they weren't fully prepared. They really didn't know what they were saying yes to. And, some of them aren't ready. Are you giving them enough context to choose?
Yeah.
And so that was really powerful to see the efficacy that can happen when you really have real conversations, like what we're having now, and you really screen with objective tools that help put some of your bias aside and, not just good for the organization, good for the people coming aboard.
Yeah, totally. It comes down to the communication and the we went through this a little bit, not a lot, but I used to have someone internally that was a part of some of the interview process, and I would write out what I wanted in a job post, or I would sit and talk in an interview, and then afterward, the other person on my team would be like, why do you keep telling them like how messy we are and we're still such an early startup phase and I'm like, it was the same thing. She's like, you're going to scare them off, or people think we don't have our stuff together. I'm like, we don't. We're a startup. It's messy. I want realistic expectations from day one of like, you're not stepping into a beautiful, refined corporate role where no, this is and if you don't have those conversations up front and you make it look shiny, and then they get in and they're like, oh, this is a mess. It's like, you tricked me.
Right. They feel lied to, actually.
Yeah.
Even just subconsciously, they feel lied to.
Yep.
And the people, I want the autonomy to choose. Like, I will oftentimes say challenge accepted, but what am I saying yes to?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of like a relationship. Would you want to marry somebody and then afterwards go, well, this is all the hard stuff. This is all my dark side. No, that would be great to know. And some of us have done that. And it's like, that's great to know beforehand. What am I saying yes to?
Yeah.
Especially if I want it to be a long-term, healthy, great decision.
Yeah. And I think doing all of those things, all of business, whether it's people you're hiring, people you're partnering with, it's clients, it is all relationships.
Yep.
And in order for those to be powerful or strong, you're building trust with people. Mm-hmm. And if you aren't being honest, even if it's messy, right out the gate, you have no trust. You have the opposite.
That's right.
So it's like, that's great. That's another great example. You also talk about, so there's a few things that I found interesting about how you describe what you do. One of them is being an accidental comedian.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So, it really was an accident. Yeah.
What do you think about humor and integrating that into business and what you do?
It's so important. So important. number one, I was blessed to grow up in a very funny family. And I just got a lot of joy from it. I mean, I remember being at college, my mom would write the most hysterical letters, and she's very introverted and shy. And she would just be talking about people at church. I mean, it was just so funny. And, you know, comedy, laughing regulates our nervous system, right? Gives you dopamine hits and those positive, like oxytocin, like happy things happen. That's why people don't go away from a keynote where somebody was funny and they go, oh my gosh, she was too funny. I wish I did not laugh that hard today. They don't regret laughing. They might regret, oh my gosh, it was death by PowerPoint and it was so boring, or it was too much content. My head exploded, but they don't regret laughing. And I find, you know, we need more nervous system regulation today. Most people are running with a dysregulated nervous system for a lot of reasons, right? Just content overload, chaos, not enough sleep oftentimes, you know, all of these things. Crying regulates the nervous system, so does laughter. And so I found it just kind of organically in my coaching and consulting over the years. And it came naturally to me because of that family. And then at one point, somebody was like, you should just comedy contest. I'm like, that sounds like the worst idea I've ever heard of. Like sharks, heights, stand-up comedy, same, because you know you're going to probably epically fail at some point on a stage in front of everyone, which feels like naked. I mean, the ultimate exposure, right? And I'm choosing that. And a comedy contest, you're not just doing stand-up and hoping it works because they laugh or they don't. You've got judges actually judging you in the back of the room. And I walked away so afraid, and I don't get afraid very much. And I'm like, man, I tell my clients to do what are scary things to them every day. I have to go do this. and I knew that I actually knew I was supposed to do it. And so I did. Not knowing, I knew I'd learn, you know, and I didn't know how it'd go. And I'm so glad I didn't know how hard it would be. And a little bait and switch, like, well, you get a comedy coach. I'm like, thank God. No, you didn't get a comedy coach till the 50 people got down to 20. There were so many things, right? But it was like, but I'm not a quitter and I'm in the game, right? So good. I've even used it for conflict resolution. I've used it, you know, not just hiring. I've had couples call me, and I've never marketed that but like I can teach anyone's strengths and how they work with you individually or how they work in relationships. Like respect goes up, like true respect, because you actually get over just trying to tolerate other people. You celebrate how weirdly different they are than you and how weirdly different they look at things. And you don't view everything as an attack. You go, wow, it's so interesting. I would have never approached the client that way. Instead of losing your control mind every 5 minutes like we normally do, you just go, interesting. Like unless it's really right or wrong, morally or ethically or whatever. It's like just appreciating how different people are. Really, you love spreadsheets? Fabulous, because, you know, the only spreadsheet I like is, of course, Strengths Finders and looking at a team on one. And so really just falling in love with that diversity. It's the beauty. It's also the beast. It's hard. The peopling is hard. Maybe now more than ever before. It's like, oh, you know, AI can't do all the relationships for you, right? They can't marry for you and have babies for you. Like there's still this really human desire to connect and have relationships professionally and personally that technology will never be in the place of, but we struggle with it.
Oh, yeah.
And we're maybe struggling with it more than ever because there's like 9 million ways to communicate. We've all got our preferences, and we're all, you know, you could silo out and or you can come together and go, that's cool. I don't have to like, you know, put a crimp in your jam. If that's the way it works for you, awesome. And actually even intentionally putting people on your team that are different, because it's like, wow, we have all this really covered. There's a gap here. We have a gap over here with whatever it is. Like we need somebody more competitive that's influential to put us out front more, or we need a more empathetic person to make sure we're not a bunch of cannibals in here, or like whatever it is that is the gap. So comedy for me, well-placed, well-timed, and not at someone else, but like just giving people a laugh break. Especially with some of the stuff I talk about. I've done interventions and taken people to the hospital. And so maybe not in the ride over, but like, you know, later you're debriefing and unpacking, and like, again, not at anyone's expense, but just in a way that's non-threatening, but just gives them a break. And then that group flow, which is the neuroscience of group together. Oh, for a minute, we're all on the same page. Even if we were kind of different before, for a minute, we're all laughing together. And it kind of regulates the group in a way that I don't know of much else that can. It's a powerful strategy.
That's awesome. I think on your comments about, you know, even more today probably than ever with where we're at with technology and screens and people just scrolling and I think it drives even more of a true desire for people to connect with people, which is also what I love about, we put on conferences and events and in-person events. I'm like, as much as I love online stuff, it's like being together in person is so different, so unique. It's so much more powerful. You obviously do the same, getting together with people, helping with masterminds. I think that the more that AI and digital becomes a thing, the more desire for that in-person grows. And I even say it when it comes to like content or casual conversations or just organic like you-ness, because I use art as an example. Like when everybody is now writing content with AI, whose
Not
content?
everybody. Anyway.
Okay. I say everybody, 90%. It's like, when everybody is now using that tool to do all the thinking, all the writing, it's who they are, the uniqueness is going to be people who don't. Right. And it'll be the same thing with, AI generated videos versus an actual person. Like that personal piece, like I said, it goes to like art. Who has the highest paying art or the highest value art? It is stuff that was painted by hand years ago. You don't go generate it with AI and now it's worth millions of dollars, right? We have this thing where we value true human art, connection, discussion, voice, writing, even if it takes longer to produce, even if there's more errors in it. Like we enjoy that more than knowing technology just produced this blog.
I even heard some people, which makes sense to me. They're like, I even put an error in my stuff so people know I wrote it. And I'm like, well, I don't have to. I usually have an error in my stuff. I just don't know that I have because I wrote it. And I love writing. Now, does it take me a long time? Yeah. But I mean, it's me. It's my voice. Because also, like, what happens if I get on a podcast or I get on stage and it doesn't sound anything like what I wrote? Like, those will be some gaps that we will see.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Where people can't talk about the thing that they write about because AI wrote it.
Not as eloquently.
Now they try to...
right? Or it sounds like a totally different vibe. And, that would be like dating somebody by text using AI to write it all for you. And then you go on a date and they're like, you're not anything.
That's not how you talk to me.
Yeah. So it's going to create those gaps, right? And it's going to create even more trust issues. It already has. But where there's challenge, there's opportunity. Yeah. And so I always just try to focus on, and I try to get my clients to focus on, what can you do with what you've got where you are. Yep. We get overwhelmed, and sometimes we just feel like it's hopeless, or, we get catastrophic thinking or imposter thinking when we focus on what we can't control.
Oh, yeah.
Like AI isn't going away.
Nope.
Government is hard. Like all these things are hard, but okay, what can you do?
Yep.
We don't need to get online and pontificate one more time for the millionth time today. The same thing that everybody else is like, gah, gah, gah. It's like, what's the gap? Like, where does that create an opportunity? Or what's the opposite of that? If this is dark, what's light? Bring the light, to the space. Yeah. We've got enough of the, doom and gloom. And then the good people are like, oh, it's just too depressing. Got to get off of there. I'm like, for the love of God, don't get off of there. Like, at least parachute in and drop a gold bomb or a light bomb and then get out and like, keep bringing your solutions and your magic to the world, because we can't let all the crazy people have the things. Like, they are so committed and unflinchingly so. Yeah. We need to be just as passionate about doing the good.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind I'd love to get some of your thoughts on is you work with a lot of, like you said, high achievers, many of them being entrepreneurs or business owners, many of them even being online influencers, like you mentioned Russell quite a bit. What's some of your thought in today's age of the need for or benefits of working on like a personal brand inside of a company, and or the need for being online and working on content as a small business? What's some of your thoughts around that area?
You better do it or you're going to starve. And like, if you hate doing that, have somebody that can do it for you. Hire it out. Somebody really good. Not always easy to find somebody good, but hire it out. If you're not working on your personal brand, a couple of things. One, if you work for a company and you ever want to leave or they ever give you a box and you're leaving, which we've seen a lot, you're starting at ground zero. And usually those people are all into this little bubble and they don't network ever, go to live events, hardly ever. It's like, well, I worked at Micron or I worked at Alberts or whatever it is. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but like you need to be you inside of that bubble and not just promote that bank or that organization or that, again, you might want to leave or they, there's not as much loyalty either way anymore. So like, so many people are starting from scratch and then they call me, well, a lot of people can help me. And I'm like, oh my Lord. I'm really trying to beat the drum of get your own personal brand. You don't have to be obsessed with social media. I'm not telling you to go down the rabbit hole every day. Like get on there, give some people high fives that have good content, not the bad content. Don't do anything on that. You're giving it a microphone, but go, post a good article or say something like whatever it is, share somebody else's post that was great. You don't always have to create your own content, but be relevant and available. Like LinkedIn is one of the most utilized. And I don't care if you work in a bank and you think you don't have to. I know you don't have to right now, but do you just think you're guaranteed to be there forever? And a lot of corporate America people are also starting side hustles. Well, how do you do that with just no brand?
Yeah.
So you could start a side hustle even if you don't want to do your own social media forever. Like just do it and build it up to the point where then you can hire it out. And the tools make that really easier than ever before to do it. It's leveled the playing field. But that personal brand is important. I've seen so many people, and I've even warned them ahead of time, like, you might want to create your own personal brand, blah, blah, blah. And then they don't listen. And then 6 months later, they call me just devastated. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And because none of us have that crystal ball, at least not most of the time, I might get into it once in a while, but I don't know the whole landscape. What's your insurance policy? Or what if you just want to get out one day, but you're like, but I can't, this is it. So we have more choices than we think. But it is about being intentional and thinking about the future, not just like this moment. This moment can change. Things change.
Yep. Yeah.
Merger happens. New manager happens. There's so many things.
Yep.
And then what do? People that their remote position eliminated. Well, now you got to go in there. Well, if you have kids at home and you can't, now you got to pivot and do something else. The tools are right there for you to start something or hopefully find another remote job. But like, do you have a personal brand outside of what you were doing for that company? I think it's critical.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people just don't know what it even means or how to start. And I think,
true.
And I also think, I know most businesses are then afraid of individuals making effort toward a personal brand because they're like, hey, you're supposed to be focused on your role and you work here and, why are you building this other thing? I think there's still some of that fear in businesses, but when it's done properly, also, people working on building a personal brand, even working within a company, totally benefits the company.
Yes, it does.
Because it comes with awareness building. For individuals to start building a personal brand, it doesn't mean go create your own logo and, become famous. What does it even mean to start building a personal brand? It means you're sharing your expertise. You're connecting with people online. You're talking about what you do. You have an area of expertise. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
And you just start to build awareness. You network with people around that through your own profile
on whatever platform or platforms that you're on.
Because then, to your point, right? If you become whatever it is, you're an accountant and you work at a CPA firm. You're talking about tips and you're talking about you become really well known for that.
Yeah.
If it brings awareness. Yes, it may come back to that business for now.
Yeah.
But if that firm goes out or you want to go out and start your own thing, you've built an awareness.
You take that with you.
Yep.
See, it's an asset. Your online reputation is like your personal reputation. It's just online, right?
Yep.
My personal reputation doesn't leave me if I leave a company or a project. I'm a contractor, right? So if I leave that contract, it's not like I leave me behind.
Yep.
But what do I take with me is the important point. Your own social media and what you have built and grown with that algorithm and that following there, you can take with you. Whereas if you're running, I know people that have been running the social media for a company or whatever, and it's like, that's great. But they're like, I just put all my energy into building that. Well, great. But when you leave, bye-bye. Or if you sell that company, it's gone, right? That went. So what do you have then to move forward? And you can also put forward your philanthropic things. Like, are you on a board of a charity thing? But if you don't have any influence, then how are you going to do that? So you don't have to go nuts with it. You don't have to... people are so funny. Like we're like all or nothing. Oh my gosh, I don't need to be an influencer. Well, you do have influence. You do influence the people that you do, whether it's a small group or a large group. So it's like, it will just give you less choices and sometimes even impact the choices that you make based on feeling more limited because it's a resource.
Yep.
So, again, there's business owners who are so about the business they're in, but most businesses, they sell at some point if they're successful and smart.
Yeah.
And, when you do that, then it's a huge identity crisis if they don't know where they're going next, even if they exited with a lot of money. But also, like, your brand is what follows you.
Yep.
And talk about more than the one thing. And people don't really like following a one-trick pony anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to do for fun? Or, like, what are some of the crazy things? People love that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're used to the blah, blah, blah. I went to the thing and the deal. And we go to a lot of okay events.
Yeah.
Networking. People are like, eye roll. What are you doing that's exciting?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were in Philadelphia. What were you doing there?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And it also can be a catalyst for other people to go, what can I do? I mean, people do see that, not pretending like you're perfect, not pretending like it's great, also not dumping on people and using it like a therapist and be like, I'm just going to give you a grenade right now and tell you everything bad in my life.
Yeah.
But there's some sort of authentic sharing and journaling your life a little bit to wherever you're comfortable personally and professionally that gives people a snapshot in, opens up opportunities you will never see coming because you don't know unless you do it. And, the net result can be that, somebody that messages me and says, oh my gosh, I have a kid that's autistic. And that blog you shared, instead of writing about leadership when you wrote about your kid's autism, which I really felt the nudge to do it, had never done it before, it was years ago. She was like, that was a game changer for me. I realized my kid was autistic. I was able to get them diagnosed and now I'm getting them the things they need. So sometimes when you're feeling nudged to do it, it's not just about you.
Yeah.
It might be a gift and a benefit for somebody else, but the bigger the spotlight, the bigger the spit wads. I mean, it is exposure and people are like, well, I just want to fly under the radar. Okay, but then your impact is also under the radar sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I kind of accidentally fell into what I do, building an audience or building a following. And it's funny, off camera, going to events where I don't know people, I am shy. I'm standing by the wall. I don't talk. Like, I don't love the exposure, really.
Right.
I've had to grow into doing it, but it's exactly for that reason. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to be an influencer because I want to sell products on TikTok or whatever. I know that, yes, building an audience, what does it mean? It means I can impact more people.
Right.
If I'm building an event where I believe people are finding new career opportunities and landing dream clients and they love it, then yes, I want to build an audience because I want more people to come experience that. Like when the intention behind your why of what you're doing is something more than money and fame.
Right.
Then it completely drives it, whether it's uncomfortable or not.
Yeah, and it drives it through the tough times too, because like we got tough times. There are days, right, that things are going sideways and I didn't get that contract signed and now they remember a very different thing than me, or I'm doubting myself or whatever. Like life happens. It gets very lifey and people get peoply and things get weird. And it's that clarity of cause and why that will continue to move me forward, even though it's like, I don't know all what it's going to look like when I get there, and I need to be adaptable along the way.
Yep.
Because the more I resist the change or the imminent things around me, the more I'm just wasting that energy instead of just get back up, go again, do it again. That didn't work out. Okay, we're going to approach this a different way and we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Who are some of the people that you enjoy following or learning from that you look up to?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Just some that come to mind.
Yeah. I mean, in a business context, it sounds really weird because I have a contract with Russell, but I mean, he doesn't even know yet how much he's changed my life. He doesn't even know. He will. When my book comes out and I got my own book funnel, like he's gonna see and experience how much he's changed my life. I'm a mindset coach for his mastermind, but I get to sit in there and learn all this stuff. Oh my gosh. I was all in person before COVID, all in person contracts, everything I did, which meant I was kind of quiet during COVID, which is when I went and got an auctioneer license because it was on my bucket list. I'm like, why not? There's no chicks around here doing it. I might as well. So having the opportunity to work from anywhere and then sit there with these millionaires from all over the world, some of the coolest, most interesting, best people, and get to learn from them and from him has been just the craziest, coolest opportunity ever. And then a lot of them I've ended up following, you know, in all of their unique spaces, just with what they're doing. And I also love to follow a lot. Like, I'm an Instagram girl. LinkedIn and Instagram are my favorite. Instagram, I follow a lot of like psychologists and some of those types of podcasts, or like Gay Ramate. I love him. Like people that are very founded, Dr. Amen, people that, you know, study a lot of what we call neurodivergency, all of that. I'm like, okay, is everybody on Adderall? Like, maybe we're not all screwed up.
Yeah.
Maybe actually these really are a lot of superpowers. And just like every superpower that we all have, there's a shadow side to every one of them, and knowing your edge is important. And so instead of all these labels and all these, you know, it's more like, how do we unlabel people and unbox them and go, how do you work? What are all the different ways we can figure out? And yeah, some of these assessments or things help us kind of have some framework. But then once you have all that data, like you said, you come back to that intuition. So what now what, you know, in this moment? And it might change down the road. So I love, you know, following a lot of that. I follow things that help me to be a better coach. So that it's not just my own internal dialogue or what I've learned. Like, I'm a voracious learner. I just want to keep learning. And as the world changes too, the way it impacts us changes.
Yeah.
So the way that we did things maybe, you know, 10 years ago, even it's different. So I love that. I love Brene Brown. I've had some massive breakthroughs listening, because she's such a deep dive researcher on emotions. And she doesn't just like, oh, happy, sad, mad. It's like, no, it's so much deeper than that. And I've had some massive breakthroughs with everything I know when I'm watching something like that, and they're coming at it similar but different. And I'll go, oh my gosh, false guilt, when I haven't really done anything wrong, but I feel bad. So then I try to do something because I'm an achiever. And if I can do it, my control freak goes, yay, maybe we can rescue and fix it. And then, but I couldn't fix it. And it was just grief, and it was agony. It was anguish that you just have to sit with and feel and be. Like, she didn't unpack it all like that. But when she started talking about anguish, I realized, oh, this thing I've been coaching other people on, when achievers especially feel bad, sometimes we go to action, but we go to the wrong action. We might enable a situation or go back to a toxic situation because something inside of us that are those natural strengths rises up. I'm going to save the day. But it's like, it's not appropriate. Those strengths will always nudge us, but that's also the shadow side of them. So following people like that, where they'll talk about research and stats and data from a different perspective, will sometimes bring things I've learned or I've intuitively seen or tried to coach on. It'll give me better languaging and ways to teach it and empower from it than what I'm doing on my own.
That's awesome. I often found when I first started my first company, I was not yet following anybody. So I felt like I was in a tunnel. Then I started following, of course, you know, the people everybody knows, Gary Vee and Lewis Howes. Like, I started finding the entrepreneur world online. And initially, more than like, oh my gosh, I learned something new, it was confirmation.
Yes.
It was like, by following and listening and starting to spread who you listen to, it was like different parts from different people that were like, hey, you're doing this right, or hey, you should make this little change, or and for me, I, more than trying to that's not what I was going to say. It's like the best education you could possibly get. Finding people like that are deep in different areas, whether they're podcasters or YouTubers or authors or whatever. And I always tell people too, I'm like, you don't have to love everything about any of them. You take everything with a grain of salt. But when you start spreading and you are that forever learner, and you spend some amount of your time learning content every day or every week or whatever, that adds to how you think and how you operate, whether it's something new, whether it's confirming an area. I try to encourage more people to make sure that they're finding time for that.
Yeah, because otherwise your thoughts become an echo chamber in your own head, and that's not always holistic or healthy, or, you know, again, sometimes I find one of the biggest challenges I have when I'm coaching is when people have a fixed mindset. Oh, I've done all the things a long time ago. I did all the assessment. You know, like nothing has changed. Like the world hasn't changed. You haven't changed. I haven't. Everything's changed. You know? So like, you know, and like with strengths, it shows you like the same strengths you had, they're going to shift over the years, sometimes dramatically. Now people will tell you different, but I've seen the data. I'm talking data here. And so it's like when we get in that fixed mindset thing again, it's a bit of that control freak. It's usually a bit of a trauma response on some level, professionally or personally. It's like, I got it. I have the answers. Like somebody's burned them or whatever. And so they're like, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Terrible saying, by the way. That might be true in certain things, but contextually, like blanket statements are dumb. Like they don't always fit. And so to your point, like it's a way of masterminding almost, right? As we're listening to all these different experts, maybe I can't just call Brene Brown, have coffee with her or, whoever I'm following, but like I can watch their content and they're teaching me and speaking to me. And like you said, sometimes I have to reframe something to fit it for me or whatever. Or sometimes I'm like, I don't really agree with that, but man, I really agree with all this. And it just confirms things, or it even elevates or evolves things that need to come to kind of a more refined or a new level of acumen.
Yep.
I
don't know if this is the right term to use, but I call those people my invisible mentors. I'm like, I have so many amazing mentors. They don't know who I am.
They don't know me,
but it doesn't even take the two-way communication sometimes, right? You find people, and when it comes back to like who should we follow or learn from, who has built something or has the knowledge in an area that you want to grow or you want to become better or you want to build, following those people and just listening to them over time, you start to learn from them. And they didn't get where they got by not knowing anything, right? It's like letting those different people influence you over time really helps you build what your goals are.
And don't steal their stuff and not give them credit.
Yep.
That makes me nuts.
Yep.
Don't quote them without quoting them.
Yep.
And say who said it.
Yep.
And don't say Tony Robbins said everything, because you need to check your quote first, because a lot of times he didn't know it was somebody else. But anyway.
Yep.
One of the things I loved about Russell is when I read his books, and it was after I'd been working with him for a few months, and then I felt bad I hadn't read them sooner because they were actually so good. I'm like, oh gosh. But he gives so much credit.
Yeah.
Even on smaller things that other people don't even just take the time.
Yep.
And I don't think a lot of people mean terrible by it, but they're just like, well, I've assimilated that knowledge and no, it's mine.
Yeah.
But it's like if I say, one of my favorite quotes is the Maya Angelou quote, they might forget what you said, they might forget what you did, but they don't ever forget how you made them feel. That's why in-person events are the bomb.
Yeah.
But I need to give her credit for that. That's not me.
Yeah.
I didn't, like the bigger the spotlight, the bigger the spitwads. That's me.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to give credit. Russell's where I learned so much about digital marketing that I'm going to be deploying so soon. And like, I know lots of people do that. I know there's lots of tools, but like, he gave me an opportunity and saw my talent, and then I'm just like, this is a God thing. Like, I'm serving these people, but then I get to learn this. Like, it's like a miracle to me. And
which
so
is the power
give
of
credit to those mentors, those teachers. Where'd you get the thing? Don't be Gary V. Talk about what you learned from him.
Yep. I say it all the time because I'm like, there's people that love him. There's people that hate him. I don't care.
Sure,
I give the credit because I would have never started a podcast if I didn't follow him and wasn't listening to him.
And we remember those lightning rod moments,
Yeah.
right? And you can be that for somebody else. Like, that's the cool thing, is think about that one moment where they said that one thing, or that one teacher that saw you, or the one parent or friend or mentor. And like, however it is, I like to think of it as my board of directors that don't know me.
Yes. Yeah, there you
and
go.
some of them are dead, like Martin Luther King. And,
Yeah.
There's some of them that I'm so passionate about what I learned, what piece I learned from them. Nelson Mandela, very inspiring that this guy is in prison for what felt like 1,000 years and then becomes president of his country at 73. And so when people think it's too late, or they're, like the life's been too hard for them or any of that, I'm like, but look at the game changing when you stay resilient, keep learning, stay humble. And keep leaning in and using everything that you've ever experienced and done up to this point, good, hard, indifferent, leveraging all of that for whatever kind of a value it can bring.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. More inspiration, right? Like learning from those people who have done something like that has overcome adversities, that have accomplished something great. It's the more that you surround yourself by that type of information, it inspires you to think bigger. I went through a really bad head-on car accident when I was younger, and I attribute a lot of why I think about painful things that I come into contact with now. I'm like, could always be worse. For me, it was a lived experience, and by sharing that or other people hearing those stories, it's like, okay, yeah, things could be worse.
Right.
What am I really going through? How difficult really is it? You know? And I don't try to put people's pain down, but
Right.
I always, no matter what I'm coming into at this point, I'm like, still here.
Yeah.
It might be hard, and I think the more that we can learn from and listen to those types of stories, it's not just stories and it's not just inspiration. It actually changes how we act when we come into contact with things in our own lives.
Right. Well, and that's the neuroscience, right? Like there's neuroplasticity of the mind. We used to think the mind is fixed. It's not. Good news. You can evolve, you can change, but you got to lean into it. And you got to learn, and it's a bit, you have to push, and there's got to be enough pressure to create those new neural pathways, not so much that we think it's literally impossible. That's huge. And so you're not stuck. You're not a tree, as Jim Rohn says, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not, you can change, you can learn. If you don't like it, you can change it. Now, it might not be easy and it might take some time, domino after domino, but you can change relationships, you know, your body, mind, spirit, your job, your business, all of those things. And that's very empowering. Again, it's not easy. I never want to act like it's easy. It's not.
No.
I don't like the quote, was it Steve Jobs? Well, if you find your purpose, you'll never work another day of your life. BS! I don't even know why people say that. It's not even true. And I feel like that sets some people up for expectations. Like, live a fearless life. No, there is no thing as a fearless life.
Yeah.
Like sometimes things should scare you because maybe that's a bad person or you don't want to do that. But like it may be hard, but it can still be fulfilling.
Yeah.
And you are still capable, and we may get hurt, but we can heal, and we can rise back up, and we can help other people.
Yep.
And like that's the good news. It's you can't take one without the other. So I don't want to make it sound simple.
Yep.
It's not, and we don't get there alone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get there alone. The two other authors I think of too, Stephen Kotler, like he brought so much of neuroscience just into better perspective for me. We're all different. There's so many neuroscientists, neuroresearchers, I guess is more what he is. But The Art of Impossible, I mean, that book was just, I was just like, yes. And it just brought so many things into alignment already. It just gave me better words and better context for it. And then Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he's written a lot of books, so has Stephen Kotler. But be your future self now. And this isn't about just like hope or just like vision board. It's like, okay, who am I in the future? What does it look like? What is all of that? Then how to reverse that, back into, and he's got PDFs that go with it, with tactical, like what can I do and integrate starting today, tomorrow, whatever, to like make this happen. He's very vulnerable. He talks about the stuff that's worked, times he felt like a failure. I love that. Stories really teach and inspire us and galvanize us. And so I think a lot of people are struggling to find hope right now who have been through tough stuff personally or professionally. And sometimes it's because the future's gotten blurry for us. What am I going towards? Who am I? We get a little fuzzy on that, and that's okay as long as we do the work to gain that clarity.
Yep.
Because with that clarity, the hope is really part of the driver that moves us into that.
Yep.
So if we just like action reaction and we're just fight or flight, you might want to go get your trauma looked at, right?
Yeah.
So that you free up some bandwidth to actually go, what is this future self? What do I want? What do I not want? How do I get there? And you're still going to adapt and evolve along the way.
Yep.
But when that gets really fuzzy and they don't even know what or why they're going towards anything, it's hard then to get that motivation and get out of the catastrophic thinking. I
mean, it's kind of the cliche saying again, but again, I think they're all there for a reason, is like the find your why, right? Like, if you don't have a good enough why, or you don't believe in even your own purpose of what you're working toward, then you are lost. You don't have something to push through the difficulties. That has to be the starting point.
Or if you're flinchy about your why, maybe it's an older why, and now there's a new kind of a calling or purpose or whatever, new chapter, new layer, whatever word fits for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be honest, like sometimes we obsess so much about the why, and we're like waiting like for tablets from heaven to fall on our head, or like we're waiting for this moment. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it's a little domino at a time. And also for me, sometimes I know what I'm supposed to do before I even know my why. So I've just gotten really clear, and I've tried to empower others. If this fits for you too, sometimes if you know that you know that you know what I'm supposed to do, I may not know why. I may not know until I go. I didn't know why. I don't know why we met and why exactly I was coming here today, but I'm willing to take the journey because I checked you out. You seem amazing, incredible, and not like a serial killer. Good news. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go because I think I'm going to find out my why later. I don't know how we could collaborate or who we could help. I don't have any clue, but there's something there that I feel the nudge. I don't just do things willy-nilly. I try to really time block and be intentional about time and energy and influence. And so where I spend it really matters. But sometimes I know what I'm supposed to do before the why, and that's okay too. And then that kind of becomes your why. Well, I don't know why I'm supposed to do this, and I'll find out why later. Sometimes not before you take action, though.
And I think that becomes a deeper thing inside of you that you learn to trust or believe, right? Because, and that goes kind of to the belief of everything happens for a reason, where you may not know the reason, but you know if it's an action you should take before you know the outcome of it.
I think some people struggle, where some people struggle is there's the mind, there's the intellect, and sometimes that's for us and sometimes it's working against us, right? There's our emotions, which are sometimes legit and great and sometimes lying to us because like that one guy on your board of directors like, no, stop, don't ever do anything again. Don't ever trust any other people because it's trying to protect you. But if he's left to his own without masterminding with your whole board of directors, he's going to shut you down and like shore you up at home, right? And so it's like, okay, how do I conspire with all of this to know what's my intuitive hit versus my emotions and my intellection? Sometimes they'll all dance together and sometimes they fight each other. And so sometimes I be with it till I get that clarity, that deep intuitive hit. Sometimes I'll instantly know, but sometimes I wait. And I kind of have a rule of threes with God. It's like, okay, when he nudges me multiple times deeply, then I know it's not just, I have thousands of thoughts every day, just like we all do. I have a lot of ideas. What do I act on? Because I want to really manage that time and steward that time and optimize so that I can optimize that impact. And just because Zig Ziglar used to say, are you confusing activity with accomplishment? There's a lot of people that do, and I've done it too.
Well, I feel like we could keep talking forever,
I know, right?
But I think we've hit a lot of topics. So just out of respect for time, I want to start wrapping up. And I think to close, I just want to ask for, and maybe this is a cliche question too, but I like asking it. If you were to take some of the lessons that you've learned throughout your career this far and you've got a college grad, let's say, starting to enter their professional journey, what's some of the advice that you give to some of those younger people?
Do your CliftonStrengths and then call me. Let's go over in this moment, right? In this moment, who are you? What do you want? What do you not want? Aside of the advice you've been given, the parents who mean well, but they don't always know, or understand. Your professors, anything like what men should do, what women should do, all of that. Who are you? Where are you at right now? And how can you really make choices to set yourself up? Because we can always make a new choice, but sometimes making new choices and changing everything, like getting out of a tough marriage or getting out of a toxic role you've been in for a while, those are harder than if we are more intentional at the beginning. And just reminding yourself that you're a choice. Sometimes we feel like we have to do a lot of things because those are the expectations of the people around us. And yes, we care about the people around us, which is great. That's great to care. But also factor yourself into that board of directors too. This isn't just, this dictatorship of, the world or your religion or your family or whoever it is. And sometimes those are the people that don't get your calling or your purpose, at least for a time, more than even other people. And you're like, oh, because they don't get it, maybe it's wrong. Not necessarily. I don't know. To your point, only you can figure that out. But just taking time and really just noticing, sometimes just unplug and go take a walk. And whether you meditate or pray or just think and ideate, and then talk with different people that you really trust and respect from different spaces, not just inside of like your family or just inside of your religion or not just inside of maybe the industry that you think you want to be in. Because how many of us are still even doing what maybe we thought we were going to do a long time ago, right? Getting different perspectives from really credible people that don't have some big agenda with you or whatever. And then the one other thing I would say is something that took me too long to learn. Like I do wish I would have learned it way sooner. I have a huge heart, just like my dad. And I always said I wasn't going to be as gullible as my dad, but guess what? Oh my gosh, I've been so gullible. I think my inclusive nature, and because I really do love everybody, and I really do see that, yeah, we've all been through hard times and we've all got, we all make mistakes, but like I see the potential in people and I see all of that raw, and I don't want to judge people. But because I didn't want to judge people, I accidentally kind of assumed everybody had great intentions straight away and didn't always get contracts, or thought people were my friends that were just coming for opportunity. They just really wanted to meet the people I knew. They thought maybe I could teach them something. And I did, and I can. And so I've really had to reframe like, oh, even though I love people and I love meeting people and creating new friends, not everybody thinks about it that way. And it's okay. I had to remanage my expectations, but I had a lot of hurt for a lot of years professionally and personally. And I finally realized, wow, I really am that common denominator. And, my dad really didn't learn that lesson until it was kind of too late. He passed away in 2019, but I really wanted to break through. So continue to have little breakdowns from it. I really wanted to break through. And so I would encourage people, like, you don't have to judge people and you don't have to assume they're bad, but don't assume everybody thinks like you or has the same code of conduct or that everybody's trustworthy. Sometimes people are just, they don't know, or they're just, not at a stable place, maybe emotionally or mentally. And so when that scarcity thinking operates, whether it's professionally or personally, some people end up kind of being takers. And again, I don't think necessarily most people try to, but it can be the net result. And if you're just so durable and you're so available for that, you're a part of that equation that's causing part of that problem. And so it really took me a while to figure out what I was doing. My empathy was kind of overriding that intuition and that discernment piece. And so those really all need to dance together. Empathy's great, inclusion's great, but don't be an idiot, right? They need to dance together.
Yeah.
And especially when you're vulnerable. If you're going through big transitions, you're sometimes even more vulnerable. So call those ride or dies that you really trust. Yeah. And just vet out what you're thinking and what your next moves are.
Yeah. No, that's great. I could say I'm probably guilty of the same thing. Very, very much a, trust until it's broken, or like assume the best of everybody, a giver. And even, I think everybody to keep that in mind, but probably some of what you've experienced, and I have too, is like, when you start also growing in your career, or growing in your awareness, or your circle of network or influence is growing, then even more so the people are like, wait a minute, I want to be your friend. And you're like, okay, yeah, everybody's welcome.
Yay!
But there are, you do have to do it carefully and even more so as that continues to grow.
As your platform grows, really you have a responsibility not only to yourself, but to the people who really you can impact, that you're not letting maybe unhealthy or imbalanced things to, derail you. Yeah. And again, it's usually more unconscious or accidental, but like the more mindful we can be and the more strategically we can manage that, it's still going to happen, but like we can reduce that risk and the bloody noses along the way. Yeah. And, again, we don't have to assume bad, but don't just assume that everybody thinks like you. Yeah. Their word of honor means the same thing as you. Like, that's very naive. And it can be a real slippery slope. Yeah. So,
well, thank you for coming in and sharing some of your journey, what you do. It's exciting work. I feel like we could do a whole podcast around each topic.
Right.
But where can people follow you or learn from? Like, where do you spend most of your time? Where should they look you up?
If my book was done, I'd give you my book funnel URL, right? It'll be millionairestrengths.com, but it's not launched yet. And so I would say LinkedIn is a great place, for people to follow. And my DMs are a little crazy because it's mostly spam on LinkedIn. Love the platform, lots of spam. But, definitely follow, stay engaged. And hopefully when, if anything resonates, when those things come out, we can link up there.
Yeah. We'll bring your book back in when it comes out. That'd be great. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
Looking
you so
forward
much.
to more conversations ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see you guys next time.